Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into a truly chilling story, a first-person account of a journey that went horribly, horribly wrong. And it all started with one small, seemingly insignificant decision. So this is the story of Bashir. He's a truck driver, been on the road for 15 years, and he's heard all the spooky stories. But to him, they were just that, stories. He didn't believe in any of it. Well, that all changed one night when a single choice on a lonely road turned his entire world upside down. Okay, so let's set the scene. It all kicks off during a pretty routine cargo run from Faisalabad to Karachi. And it's on this trip that Bashir gets a simple, tempting idea, one that, let's be honest, probably crosses a lot of drivers' minds. He figured, why not take a shortcut? He could bypass a toll plaza and pocket the 1,200 rupees he'd save. It's not a lot of money, right? Just a little extra cash. A minor act of greed, you could say. But it would end up having consequences he couldn't possibly imagine. Now, before he actually turns onto this shortcut, he pulls over for a cup of tea at this small, rundown hotel. And it's right here that the owner gives him a pretty serious warning, one that he would really, really come to regret not listening to. I mean, the owner was pretty direct about it. He warned him about robberies, sure, but he also hinted at something else, something more sinister. Talked about strange things that people see out there at night. But Bashir, he's just thinking about that money he's gonna save, and he just laughs it all off as silly superstition. So, feeling pretty pleased with himself, Bashir turns his truck onto this dark, desolate shortcut. He's thinking he's clever, saving a bit of cash. That feeling, though, it was not going to last long. He's driving along when he hears this weird cut-cut sound, like it's coming from his tires. So he pulls over. And the spot he chooses to stop is, of course, in the middle of nowhere, pitch black, right next to this incredibly tall, old crumbling wall with rusted barbed wire on top. He gets out, checks the tires, finds absolutely nothing wrong. But before he climbs back into the cab, he makes a choice. A small, thoughtless, seemingly insignificant choice that would seal his fate. He reliefs himself against the base of that strange wall. Okay, look at this timeline, because this is where things just stop making sense. At 1 a.m., he passes a woman in a bright red dress. 20 minutes later, she's somehow ahead of him, walking towards him. Then, by 1:50, she's on the main highway, a highway he hasn't even reached yet. And finally, she's on top of a completely different truck. It was impossible. She was everywhere. It was that second time he saw her, when she was walking toward his truck, that things got really terrifying. She looked right at him, right into his eyes, and smiled this inhuman, demonic smile. And then she slowly, deliberately, drew her hand across her throat. The message could not have been clearer. After that absolutely harrowing night, Bashir finally, somehow, makes it to Karachi and gets home. He's exhausted, he's terrified, but he's hoping, praying that the nightmare is finally over. It wasn't. It had only just begun. Back at home, the terror just continues. It starts with this weird, unnatural hunger. He's eating way more than usual, but still feels empty. Then comes that constant, chilling feeling that he's being watched. But the real proof that he didn't leave the horror on the road, that was about to come from his neighbor. Yeah, his neighbor, Razia Kala, asks him that. Just a simple question. But it confirms his absolute worst fear. The entity from the road. It hadn't just tormented him out there. It had followed him all the way home. And then, the presence in their home turns from just creepy to terrifyingly violent. His wife, Nasima, is up on a ladder when she's suddenly violently pushed. She gets seriously hurt, and when they ask her what happened, she says she was pushed by a woman she'd never seen before, a woman wearing a red dress. So the haunting has escalated from psychological terror to straight-up physical violence. But nobody, least of all Bashir, could have possibly predicted the ultimate tragic price his family was about to pay that very same night. It was summer, so Bashir and his 8-year-old son, Adnan, were sleeping out in their courtyard, but he wakes up with a jolt around 3 a.m., and the spot next to him is empty. His son, Adnan, is gone. He starts frantically searching in the dark, calling his name. And then, his eyes are drawn upwards, towards the huge neem tree that stands in their courtyard. A tree that was always a source of shade and comfort was now a silhouette of pure dread. And in that one horrifying moment, his entire world just ended. He saw his son Adnan hanging from a branch, but it wasn't a rope. It was a piece of bright red fabric. And sitting on the branch, just above his son, smiling that demonic smile down at him, was the woman in red. I mean, what do you do after something like that? Devastated and absolutely terrified for what was left of his family, Bashir knew he couldn't fight this thing alone. He finally took the advice of his elders and went to get help from a spiritual healer, an Amel Baba. So Bashir sits down and tells him the entire horrifying story from start to finish. And after hearing all of it, the Amel Baba doesn't ask about the woman or the hauntings. Instead, he asks one single laser-focused question that gets right to the heart of the entire curse. And here it is, the terrible, awful truth. That crumbling wall was the boundary of an old, forgotten cemetery. That thoughtless act, when Bashir stopped to relieve himself, he had unknowingly desecrated the unmarked grave of the woman buried there. He didn't just stumble upon some random evil. His disrespect is what woke her up and invited her into his life. The Amel Baba came to their home and performed an exorcism that lasted all night. They said the house was pure chaos, door slamming, disembodied screams, just terrifying. But in the end, he managed to finally banish the spirit from their home. But even though his home is safe now, the Bashir has to live with the unbearable weight of what happened. And his experience, well, it serves as a powerful, tragic warning. A small bit of greed, one moment of disrespect, led him down a path that ended in absolute ruin. Bashir's story is a terrifying reminder, isn't it? That our small, thoughtless actions can have consequences we can't possibly foresee. It really leaves you with a haunting question about the world around us. What unseen lines do we cross every day? And what is the real price for disturbing whatever lies beyond them?